Have you ever lived in a beautiful home, yet felt like you didn't exist? Have you ever smiled, hosted, cleaned every corner, while your heart slowly fell silent, unnoticed? I was a wife, a stepmother, a woman who once believed she was strong enough to endure, until one day, a glance from someone I never expected made me realize, for all these years I hadn't been seen as a woman truly seen, and everything began to change from that moment on. Never did I envision that my life would lead me to this point. A woman in her mid-40s stands solitary within the confines of a beautiful house, a profound sense of invisibility enveloping her more than ever before. My husband was perpetually absent. His business trips extended from days into weeks. Upon his return, it seemed as though his presence was merely a formality rather than a heartfelt reunion. Our conversations hardly ventured beyond the realm of trivial exchanges. It had been years since we had experienced the closeness that once defined us. I maintained a facade, prepared meals, tidied up, and greeted the neighbors with a smile. Yet within I was diminishing. It was the dawn of spring when my husband revealed that he would be departing once more, this time for nearly a month. I acquiesced, feigning comprehension. As is customary, I remained silent. I did not engage in that action. I believed I had come to terms with this, or at the very least I thought I had. Only a week had passed since his departure, yet my stepson Julian was back from college for spring break. At the age of 22, he stood tall, exuding politeness, always maintaining a respectful distance. Since his middle school days, I had nurtured him, resulting in a relationship that was characterized by a quiet, formal connection. Yet now he stood as a man, and there was an unmistakable shift in the way his gaze met mine. At the outset, it was not inappropriate, yet it was unlike anything else. His gaze seemed to rest a moment longer than usual. His compliments, which had once seemed casual, now carried a weight of intimacy. "You look beautiful today," he said one morning in the kitchen, his voice imbued with warmth. I brushed it aside with a chuckle, yet my heart fluttered. Our time together began to increase largely by happenstance. He would assist with the groceries, suggest cooking dinner together, and keep me company during late-night television shows. I attempted to dismiss the escalating tension, yet I was far from oblivious. Each time his hand grazed against mine, and every moment he lingered just a breath too near, I sensed it deeply. As the day began to fade, we found ourselves on the porch, captivated by the beauty of the sunset. He expressed his admiration for the way I kept the family united, acknowledging the strength I showed for his father. I found myself at a loss for words. It had been years since I had received such praise. There was a quality to his voice, soft yet sincere, that pierced the barrier I had constructed around my heart. I gazed at him and perceived more than just my stepson. A man caught my gaze, a man who recognized my existence. That night slumber eluded me. I found myself revisiting our dialogues over and over again. The intensity of his gaze, the fact that I remained still, I reassured myself it was all innocent. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of the truth I was concealing. I sensed that this was something deeper than mere loneliness. I had traversed an emotional boundary that I could no longer ignore. Upon encountering him once more the following morning, the sight of his smile stirred a sense of unease within me. I found myself yearning for that attention, that sensation of being desired, even if it was misguided. After an extended period, I found myself truly awake, yet a sense of fear lingered within me. I had yet to take any action, but I sensed I was on the brink. If something didn't intervene soon, I feared I might not be able to turn back from what lay ahead. The event unfolded on a Thursday evening. The house lay in silence, the air thick with an unusual weight. As I completed my dinner, the rain began to pour fiercely, and in an instant the power went out. In the absence of lights and distractions, with only the flickering glow of candles to provide warmth, the ambience transformed. Julian entered the living room, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "I thought you might find this useful," he said, a gentle smile gracing his lips. With a moment of doubt, I reached for the glass. We lingered in quietude, the sole noise being the rain's gentle percussion on the windows. The wine lowered my defenses. Our dialogue meandered through the landscape of memories, weaving into the tapestry of emotions. He shared his feelings of being adrift lately, expressing gratitude for the comfort of home and how my presence brought him a sense of security. The truth washed over me, bringing a sense of solace. Then he uttered a phrase that left me utterly frozen. "It seems you may not fully grasp the extent of your own brilliance, do you?" I gazed at him, a swirl of confusion in my mind, yet he held my gaze steadfastly. "You are worthy of a person who truly recognizes you," he went on, "someone who genuinely brings you to life." My heart raced with fervor. I felt the urge to brush it aside, to convey that this was not acceptable, yet I refrained. I allowed his words to permeate my thoughts. I craved affection, yearned for validation. In that instant, what I longed for was simply to feel seen, regardless of who was offering the gaze. I confided in him that there were moments when I sensed myself diminishing within these walls, as if no one truly noticed my presence any longer. He extended his hand towards mine, cradling it softly, and I chose to remain. It seemed utterly instinctive, so serene, as if we had come to this place not through our own volition, but rather by the inevitable pull of fate. His touch was gentle. It lacked aggression. The moment was filled with warmth and genuine emotion. After years of fading into the background, I finally felt seen. His gaze transcended mere observation, reaching deep into my soul. They embraced me, occupying the void my husband had long since left behind. He inched nearer. I ought to have intervened. I did not. Our emotions spilled into the silence, unspoken yet powerful. It was a moment of undeniable connection, too raw to ignore, too fragile to define. It unfolded with a calmness unhurried and steady. It was profound, brimming with the feelings we had long concealed. As it came to a close, we lingered in silence, each of us acutely aware that we had traversed a line that could never be uncrossed. I rose from my seat, declared my intention to retire for the night, and departed, leaving him in silence. Yet slumber eluded me. My heart pounded with urgency. My thoughts swirled in a chaotic dance. I was acutely aware of the wrongdoing that lay in our actions. It was more than merely a kiss. It was an act of treachery, not merely of my husband, but of all that I believed I represented. And yet, a fragment of my being remained untouched by regret. A fragment of my being stirred, recognized, and caressed in a manner I had long since overlooked as attainable. Words failed me. I had no desire to do so, yet, deep down, I understood that everything had irrevocably changed. A transformation stirred within me, something I could never restore. The following morning, I steered clear of any eye contact. I navigated the kitchen as if all was well, yet an unsettling dissonance lingered in the air. Aiden strolled into the room with an air of nonchalance, yet I could sense a shift in his demeanor, calm and self-assured, as if he had crossed an invisible threshold, unrepentant for the choice he had made. He extended his assistance with breakfast. I acknowledged with a slight nod, my gaze fixed elsewhere. The unspoken tension between us lingered, palpable and inescapable. We refrained from discussing the kiss. Neither of us mentioned it, yet it lingered in the atmosphere, a secret too pronounced to overlook. I repeatedly reassured myself that it was merely a fleeting instance, a momentary lapse in discernment. Yet, when his hand grazed mine once more, I remained still. As he positioned himself just behind me to grasp a plate, an involuntary response coursed through my body. Within me, shame and excitement clashed like thunderous waves. Later that day, I noticed him observing me, not casually, but with a deliberate focus. His gaze scrutinized me, my features, my gestures, each nuance as if it held significance. It had been years since I experienced such a level of attention, neither from my husband nor from anyone else. It was an error. I was aware of the truth, yet I found myself unable to resist the allure of wanting more. Aiden found himself dedicating more hours to the comfort of home rather than the company of his friends. He crafted reasons to linger by my side: movie nights, running errands, leisurely walks. Our dialogues grew more profound. He inquired about my early years, my aspirations, and the sacrifices I had made throughout the years. I came to understand the extent to which I had concealed my true self in the name of a marriage that offered me no reciprocity. I made an effort to establish boundaries, I expressed to him that this path was unsustainable, fraught with peril and folly. He paid attention, acknowledged, and even expressed regret. Yet, in the very next moment, he discovered me in solitude, and with a whisper, he confessed that I occupied his thoughts incessantly. He insisted that I was worthy of far more than being abandoned by a man who remained oblivious to my tears as I drifted into slumber. Each word pierced through the fabric of my being, mending the frayed edges of my soul. One evening he gently caressed my cheek and whispered, "You need not continue the charade. It is permissible to embrace your emotions once more." I chose not to respond. I had no need to. My gaze spoke volumes to him. The boundary of emotion had long been breached. The events that unfolded were entirely unanticipated. It was bound to happen. I found myself a stranger in my own reflection. I found myself a woman caught in the throes of guilt and longing, balancing loyalty with an intense yearning to be desired. I reassured myself that I remained in command, that I could halt this before it spiraled out of control. Yet, the reality was that I had already succumbed. And yet, I was haunted by the looming consequences, not merely the dread of discovery, but the inevitable solitude that awaited me when he departed again, when his respite came to an end, leaving me to navigate the silence of this house alone once more. Would he embrace this version of me as he departs? Or would I find myself shattered once more? In this moment, marked by an irreversible error, Julian's break was drawing to a close, and the burden of our actions started to bear down more heavily on us both. In his moments of silence, it was unmistakably there. His gaze held a depth of meaning, yet his words remained unspoken. The weight of our silence now seemed more profound. He began to pack, feeling neither intimate nor free of guilt. With each shirt I folded, I sensed fragments of my delicate world crumbling away. We had indeed crossed a line, but what comes next? We never discussed what lay ahead. He made no promises and I made no inquiries. I sought no illusions. I had spent years ensconced in a deceptive sense of safety, alongside a husband who scarcely acknowledged my presence. Yet this was unlike anything else. It was unrefined, powerful, and misguided, yet undeniably authentic. And now it was time for the conclusion. On the eve of his departure, he approached me, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes for the first time since this all began. He did not extend his hand towards me. He gazed at me, an unspoken desire to communicate flickering in his eyes, yet the words remained trapped within him. "I harbor no regrets whatsoever." He spoke softly, "Yet I have no desire to disrupt your life either." I nodded, speechless in my silence, my throat constricted. Uncertainty lingered in the air, a delicate balance between heartbreak and relief. As he departed the following morning, I lingered at the door, akin to a stranger observing someone exit her life without any fanfare. No farewells, no assurances, merely a fleeting instant interrupted. The house settled back into its silence, yet an unsettling chill lingered in the air. As the days slipped by, my husband came back, seemingly untouched by the passage of time. He returned with mementos, tales from conferences, and recounted business negotiations during dinner. He remained oblivious to my deliberate evasion of his gaze. He remained oblivious to the emptiness that had taken root within me. I had given away a part of myself, emotionally, silently, in a way I couldn't retrieve, and yet it was a truth visible only to me. Initially, I anticipated being overwhelmed by guilt, yet what enveloped me was a profound sadness, not solely for my actions, but for the countless years spent in the shadows feeling unseen. The treachery lay not merely in the kiss or the caress, it was in the moment of understanding that an individual, who was never meant to hold significance, had perceived me with greater clarity in a mere week than my husband had throughout the years. Julian sent a brief message, "Take care of yourself." For hours I found myself transfixed by it, contemplating every detail before finally deciding to erase it. I realized that moving forward was impossible, yet I also understood that returning to the past was not an option. I had transformed, and that transformation was irreversible. Ultimately, I found myself in a marriage that appeared whole from the outside, yet was utterly empty within. I spent my days alongside a man who believed that all was well, As I bore the burden of decisions that were irrevocable, perhaps the true consequence lies not in the act of being discovered, but in enduring the weight of silence that follows. I discovered that love devoid of attention amounts to mere habit, while attention lacking commitment is nothing more than temptation. In the midst of it all, I misplaced a part of myself that is forever beyond my reach.